What's up, guys? This is Manoj Paptani. I welcome you all on behalf of the Edupedia world. In today's presentation, I'm going to start out a new, a fresh, and a very exciting topic with you guys, and that is investigation and due diligence. So, what does investigation actually mean? What do you understand by the term due diligence? How it is being done? What are the steps which are need to be done in kind of investigation? What are the things that you need to take care while you go for any kind of due diligence audit? So all these great things are going to be covered in this particular chapter. I'll be covering it one after the other with my forthcoming presentations. So stay tuned for that, and I'm sure that you'll be able to get a very good grip on this particular topic once we finish it up completely. So are you guys all set? Can we just proceed further? Perfect. Fasten up your seatbelts. We are about to take off with the first topic of the day, and that will be, what is investigation? So guys, like as usual, first thing comes first. So what does investigation actually mean? It's a very common kind of term which we usually notice whether we watch any kind of TV serial or something. We usually come across this thing that police officers are being called for investigation. What do they do in investigation? Have you ever tried to understand that? Obviously, you usually see it in front of your eyes. But if I quote it in a particular terminology, I can simply say it's basically critical kind of examination. Okay, you appointed a detective, okay, and he is there to investigate the matter, whether that is something which is going on in your favor or not, or there is something which is going on against you. So these are the private detectives. So what do? They just investigate. By investigation, I simply mean they just do some kind of critical examination, okay, which is systematic, and a special kind of examination which is being told to them that they need to investigate the matter on your behalf. So exactly on the same things, if I'll talk about the investigation of books of financial statement or books of accounts of any of the company. So what does it mean? Okay, and believe me, investigation is altogether different from audit. Many people do correlate these terms, but believe me, these are not the same. Absolutely, there is a difference between the two. Investigation will simply form part of your systematic, critical and special examination which you are doing for some of the specific purpose. But if I'll talk about auditing, your main objective over there as an auditor is to form your opinion. Okay, you have been appointed as an auditor over there in order to express your opinion. You need to tell them, okay, whether there is some certain kind of material misstatement going on in the company. Are there any possible chances of fraud or error which is going on? That is something which is being taken care of in audit. Investigation may be for a narrow purpose or maybe for a broader scope. So that depends on the scale of investigation. So that's why it is being different completely as far as if in comparison that is being made with audit. So there is a difference between the two. Kohler was a very a renowned person in this field of investigation and auditing. So Kohler's definition of investigation basically simply says that investigation is an examination of books and records which are preliminary to financing and any other specified purpose, sometimes differing in scope from the ordinary audit. Can you just correlate this, guys? Even in this particular definition, Kohler has simply mentioned and provided you a thin line that there is something, if in case you need to examine something which is beyond your scope of audit, then you call upon investigators into the picture. You need to have that investigation done. So again, see line number 2. It's being simply mentioned over there that sometimes which is differing in scope from the ordinary audit. So if you need to go a step beyond your audit, then you need to have that kind of investigation to be done. Whether something, with each and everything which is going on in that company, is it good enough or not? So it is an examination of those books and records. By books and records, I simply mean the books of accounts, the other various notes which form part of the financial statements, which are preliminary to financing, obviously, or any other specified purpose, which is sometimes differing in scope from ordinary audit. So I hope you guys are pretty much clear with the fact that how investigation is different from audit. Though I'll be covering the same thing in my next slide as well, so you don't need to worry about it because it is something which has been asked so many times. Okay, many times it has been asked, what is the difference between investigation and an audit? So I'll tell you about all those things, okay, on what parameters investigation is altogether different from auditing. But I just hope that you guys are clear with what does investigation particularly mean. Shall we proceed further, guys? Perfect. Let's move towards the second topic, and that will be distinguish between investigation and auditing. This question has been asked in CA final examination for May 1997, May 2001 and November 2004. Okay, so that's one of the hot favorite kind of question which is being usually asked in 4 mark or maybe 5 marks. Okay, so what is the basic difference between the two? I have prepared a table just for your own guys' convenience in order to make you understand the concepts clearly. So what's the meaning of investigation? It is simply, it implies for the systematic, critical and special examination of the records of the business for a specific purpose. Okay, you are having some kind of problem in some particular area, and the same thing is being covered under the auditing. So you can have the investigation done for that particular scope area. So if the same is being done, so that will be the systematic and critical and special examination for the records of business for that particular specific purpose. That's the meaning of investigation. While if I compare the same with auditing, auditing is basically an independent examination for the financial information of any of the entity. When such examination is conducted with a view to express an opinion thereof. It is merely an independent kind of examination. You as an auditor, what do? So you just express and form your opinion on those financial statements. So that is your role as an auditor over there. That's the meaning of auditing. If I talk about the purpose of both the things, so investigation's purpose is basically to evaluate the state of affairs and to establish that about some certain kind of facts, whether this thing is happening or that thing is happening. So the basic purpose of investigation is to evaluate the state of affairs of the company and to establish those certain facts. But if I'll talk about auditing, the main purpose of auditing is basically to report whether the financial statements present a true and fair view of the financial position and performance or not. That is the purpose of auditing. Now, coming to the mandatory nature. Have you guys ever heard about this thing that investigation is absolutely required to be done? No. It is something which is voluntary on your part. Okay. Neither Companies Act nor any other act usually asks you up that you need to have your investigation done each year. No, that's voluntary. But if I'll talk about auditing, it is something which is mandatory. That is same thing which has been mentioned under the Companies Act 2013. So auditing is something which you can't say from yourself or escape in any case. Okay, you as a company, you need to get your accounts audited. Okay, from an auditor. So that's something which is mandatory. That's the mandatory nature difference between the two. Investigation is voluntary, whereas auditing is mandatory for companies. Okay. Next comes appointing agency. So investigation can be done by a person who is being appointed by the management. Okay. Who is going to take care of the investigation personal's recruitment? So that's the owner of the company or management. They are the persons who can take control of this charge. While if I'll talk about the auditing, okay. So who is going to appoint an auditor? It is always and always the owners and shareholders of the enterprise. Okay. Whoever are the shareholders of the company, they are going to decide that, okay, for this year we'll be having this auditor on our board. So shareholders decide the auditor, whereas management and owners decide the investigator. That's the appointing agency difference between the two. Now, coming to the protection of interest. Okay. So, in case of investigation, what's happening usually? Work is carried out from the viewpoint of appointing agency. Okay. Management has appointed you up. So, what you need to do? You just need to cater the request of management. Why? Because they have provided you a chance to come on board and investigate the proceedings. Okay. So, you are doing something on their behalf with their viewpoint. But if I'll talk about auditing, then work is basically carried out on behalf of the owners. By owners, I simply mean the shareholders of the company. Even if the power of the appointment is delegated to say board of directors or management, still you're doing your audit on the behalf of your shareholders, even though you are being appointed by the management. Still, you need to remember that. So, you need to protect the interest of owners and shareholders in case of auditing, and in case of investigation, you need to protect the interest of the appointing agency, that is the owners, management and any other person. Next, conducting. Okay, So who is the person who is going to conduct the investigation? Have you ever heard about this thing that investigation can be done by any other person, okay, who is having some specialized knowledge to their field? Absolutely, yes. So investigation is something which can be conducted by any other person. Okay, you are having some kind of special knowledge. Okay, come on board, complete your proceedings, show us the kind of investigation work that you have done, and if you are satisfied, okay, we can make you proceed with the further. Perfect. But if in case of auditing, if I'll talk about, that is something which is being conducted only by a chartered accountant. Okay, a chartered accountant which have within the meaning of the Chartered Accountant Act 1949. So by it simply mean, I can say in a nutshell that investigation can be done by any other person who may or may not be a chartered accountant. But if I'll talk about auditing, this is something which is being done only by a chartered accountant. So that's the difference between the two. Now, if I'll talk about the scope and coverage, investigations scope and coverage is very specific. Okay, you have been appointed for hitting some kind of bullseye. Okay, I am basically disturbed by this core area. So, Mr. Detective, can you help me up with this particular area to be solved? Okay, perfect, sir. I'll help you out. Okay, so that scope and the coverage which is being done in investigation is very specific. Okay, these are the persons who are like appointed for that specific coverage to be done. So, in this case, I simply say that we need to seek our answers only for those questions which are laid down in the engagement letter. So, that is something which is scope and coverage of investigation. But if I'll talk about auditing, so that's general. The scope and coverage is general. So, when compared to the investigation, it seeks to form an opinion on the financial statements that overall the financial statements are free from any kind of material misstatements and they reflect the true and fair opinion over there. So, it is having the scope and coverage in case of auditing as general. That is the difference between the two. Now, moving on to the period covered. Investigation does allow you an option that you can have the investigation done for varied kind of period. Okay, it is just not necessarily restricted to a financial year. It can extend for a period consisting of number of years. There might be a possibility that you need to investigate a particular area for a period of like let's say 5 years. You can do so. But if in case of auditing, I must say that generally it relates to a period which is one financial year. Every year auditing is being done? Absolutely. So it is generally specific to a period that is a financial year. That's the difference between the two. Investigation provides you the period covered as varied. Okay, you can have for 2 months investigation. You can have for like 10 years investigation done at the same point of time. But auditing is generally for a year. Now, what are the preconceptions of both these things? Have you ever thought about this thing, guys? Why investigation is done? Investigation is simply done if in case there is some certain kind of suspicion. Okay, I am sure that something is not going on in my house that is proper. Okay, what I am going to do? There is some certain kind of disturbances going on in my home. So, what's going to be done by my end? I'll appoint a detective. Okay, I need to ensure if some burglary or embezzlement is going on of my funds or not. So, he's going to take care of that. Whether something is going on which is just not appropriate. So, I do have that kind of suspicion in my mind, which resulted in influencing me to have the investigation done at my home. So, this is the preconception of investigation. But, have you ever heard about this thing that, dude, I am having some kind of suspicion in my financial statements. So, can I get the auditing done? No, absolutely not. That's something which is mandatory. Okay. So, you need to have auditing done, even if in case you don't have any of the suspicion going on in your mind. That is something which is preconceivably told upon in the company's act itself. So, auditing is something which is not just based on the suspicion, unless the circumstances exist to arouse that suspicion of the auditor. So, the essence lies in going into the matter with some preconceived idea suited to the objective with investigation. But if I'll talk about auditing, auditing is just not based on suspicion, unless there are some of the circumstances which exist and they arouse the suspicion of the auditor. So, that's the preconception in relation to investigation with that of auditing. Now, moving on to the evidence. So, in case of investigation, what should be your form of evidence? Okay, so you need to provide some kind of conclusive and corroborative evidence. Okay, I am not too sure whether the particular kind of proceedings which are going on in my company and my area, are they good enough or not? Okay, so what do I expect from you if in case I appoint you to investigate the proceedings? I just want you to provide me some conclusive evidence. Okay, sir, this is the area which is just not clear. Okay, and here something is going on. So I am appointing you to take care of it, and you, in return, in consideration of my payment, you are going to provide me that conclusive evidence as to what's wrong happening in that particular premise. So that's the particular idea of having the investigation. It provides you an evidence which is conclusive and corroborative in nature. While I'll talk about the auditing, in case of auditing, it usually provides you something which is persuasive evidence. Okay, so much of the audit evidences are persuasive in nature rather than conclusive. Okay, they just simply and merely say that we, due to time and inherent limitations of audit, we exercise each and everything judiciously, and we didn't find anything which affects our opinion on that audit report. So they usually provide you some persuasive evidence. Okay, we don't want here some kind of conclusive evidence, but in case of investigation, we need to have that idea of that something which is going wrong over there. That's the case of investigation. Now, moving on to the financial aspect. In case of financial aspect, the investigation basically covers financial as well as non-financial aspect. If I'll talk about that something wrong in the company is going on, okay, investigation might be done on behalf of key personnel as well. Let's suppose that key personnel is basically doing some kind of illegitimate activities, okay, in the company, in the absence of people around, okay, and this is something which is not going to affect your financial statements directly, okay, so it is having some kind of undue influence, okay, and he is just trying to get benefit out of it, okay, he is basically trying to get the advantage out of it. So investigation may be done with the kind of aspect which covers financial as well as non-financial aspect. But if I'll talk about auditing, auditing basically generally covers only and only financial aspects. Auditing is basically done on balance sheet, on that for P&L account, that notes, that cash flow statements, and each and everything which is comprising in and around the financial statements. So it is generally covering only the financial aspect. That's the difference between the two. In case of investigation, you can have the coverage of financial as well as non-financial aspects, while in case of auditing, you generally cover the financial aspect only. Now, moving on to the second last part, that is the extent of checking. So, in case of investigation, it is a very detailed one. Why? Dude, I have appointed you to take care of only one specific area. So, what are you going to do? You need to have a very detailed check done on that. Okay, a very exhaustive one. That after this particular detailed check, there is nothing which can be done. Okay, there is nothing left which can be done in order to ensure another further detailed investigation. So, you have already completed your task, and that to the exhaustive level, completely done. So, it's a very detailed and an exhaustive one. But if I'll talk about auditing, auditing is usually done on test check basis, and we all are aware of it. Why? Because it's due to some inherent limitations. Okay, and that could be paucity of time, that could be shortage of audit personnels, or maybe a few other aspects. So, we usually do our audit not on a complete 100% sample. It's basically done on some percentage basis, okay, and that percentage basis is usually called that test check basis. So auditing is basically like provide you an extent of checking on test check basis, whereas in case of investigation, you need to have that detailed and exhaustive investigation done. Now, concluding with a form of reporting. So, have you ever heard about this thing that you need to provide the investigation report only in this format? No. Since it's voluntary, there has been no prescribed format by the law. There is no statutory form of investigation report. But in case of auditing, matters need to be covered in an audit report are sometimes prescribed by law. So, this is something which is being expressly provided under the law. Why? Because it is being done on behalf of that statute. That is the Companies Act 2013. So, auditing form of reporting is basically prescribed by that law. So, this was all about the distinguish between the investigation and auditing. The same thing has been covered numerous times under the C.Final examination, May 9701, November 4, and the list is endless. I am just providing you some basic C.Final attempts over here. So, this is something between investigation and auditing, and I'm sure that I hope I was able to provide you each and every bit of it in order to make you understand the difference. There are so many you can see in front of your eyes in order to make you expressly provide the difference between the two. And I'm sure that you guys got the complete clarity on the same. Perfect, guys. With this, I'll say thank you on behalf of the Edupedia world. Keep interacting via questions, queries, and YouTube comment boxes. I will love to answer each one of your queries and answers. If in case you liked my video, do give us a thumbs up. We'll be glad to note that. Stay connected.
Drop a like and do share. Leave your comments and do not forget to subscribe for more videos.